The story begins with a loud banging on a metal door that leads to a nice apartment full of boxes. A quick look around the high-end apartment building shows that 2 people have died there. Eddie is standing right on the edge of a balcony at the top of the building. When he puts 1 foot over the edge, he hears 2 gunshots from the apartment next door. His neighbor must have gone over to see what was going on. Eddie's door is being yelled at by someone outside. Eddie's disappointed in himself. A little more than a year ago, Eddie is walking down the street and looks nothing like he does now. He says that he is an author. He's drinking in a bar at noon and telling 2 guys about his book, which no one thinks he has a contract for. It's not clear if he himself believes it. He is seen writing again later. An attempt to write. Procrastinating. Until he finally gets up and leaves his apartment to go drinking again. He doesn't write a single word for a few weeks or even months. In the end, his girlfriend Lindy breaks up with him. Eddie thinks it came out of nowhere, but it's clear that she doesn't think so. He is about to ask her to marry him, but she brings up the fact that he was married to Melissa before. The marriage didn't really work out. Later, he is walking home and feeling bad about himself when he sees Vernon, who used to be his brother-in-law. Eddie doesn't look forward to seeing him. After some small talk in which they both lie about what they're doing, Vernon gets him to agree to get a drink with him. They go to a bar, where he tells him about Melissa. Then they start talking about Eddie's creative problems, and Vernon says he can help. He shows him the drug that he's trying to sell. It's some kind of magic drug that was made by scientists. It's said to help you use your whole brain. Eddie thinks it won't help him. Vernon has to go, so he gives him a free sample of the expensive drug and his business card. Eddie is still feeling bad about himself as he walks home, so he decides to take the drug. As soon as he walks into his building, he runs into Valerie, who is his landlord's wife and hates him. While she is yelling at him, his mind is racing as he thinks about how the drug will make him feel when it finally kicks in. All of a sudden, he starts to notice things he wouldn't have before. All the small things around him and all the small things about her. He asks her what's wrong, which takes her by surprise. They start talking about her schoolwork, and he starts remembering things he didn't even know he could remember. As she starts to like him, he offers to help her with her paper. And when they're done with the essay, they talk. When he walks into his apartment, he is shocked to see how dirty and gross it is. So he cleans it up and fixes it up, putting everything back where it belongs, until it looks like a real place someone could live. The drug has given him a very clear mind. So he does the one thing he knows will help him think straight. He writes. This time, he is really going to do it. Eddie wakes up the next morning and feels like the drug has worn off completely. He still has the pages of his novel, which is good news, so he goes to see his publisher. Eddie asks her to read the unfinished manuscript and tells her that if she doesn't like it, he'll give back the advance. When he gets home, she has sent him 3 new messages saying that what he read was great. Eddie wants to call her back, but he ends up going to see Vernon instead. He opens the door for him, but he looks like he's been hurt and doesn't want to let him in. Vernon knows why he's there and tells him that he'll give him more of the drug after he does some things for him. Eddie goes to get his dry cleaning and breakfast, but when he gets back to his apartment, the door is already open. The whole place is trashed, and Vernon is sitting on his couch. Eddie goes over to him and sees that he's already dead. He calls the police right away, and while he's waiting for them to arrive, he realizes that the people who were looking for the drugs never did find them. So he sets out to find himself. Eddie finds the drugs, Vernon's black book, and some money in the end. All of a sudden, the police are there. He is then questioned by police at a police station. The detective has doubts about Eddie and what he says. Melissa calls the detective's office and asks to talk to Eddie. She tells him that she doesn't want him at Vernon's funeral and that she'll call him when everything is over. Eddie thinks someone is following him after he leaves the police station. He goes home, counts the money, and takes one tablet. This starts a montage of him finding out all over again who he is and how powerful the drug is. He gets a new haircut and some new clothes first. He finishes writing his book and sends it to his publisher. He learns to play the piano in 3 days and picks up new languages with little effort. He then uses these skills to get women's attention. He can use math to win at poker all of a sudden. He knows what kinds of drugs his cancer-stricken aunt needs. He can talk business with people from Wall Street and make everyone laugh with his sense of humor. One of them even wants him to work for them. Eddie makes new rich friends who take him on vacations in private jets and mansions with pools. But he starts acting recklessly and needs more and more adrenaline rushes. At some point, he realizes that writing is not what he needs to do. We see him back in his apartment, looking at the trade numbers and taking the drug. For what he wants to do, he needs money, and trading isn't enough. Eddie goes to a diner to find a loan shark. He is able to talk him into giving him $100,000. They meet at a park to drop off the money, and the loan shark tells him what will happen if he doesn't pay it back. Later, he takes the job that was offered to him earlier, and he figures out quickly how to invest his money to make it double. Eddie gets noticed by the big players in the business world, and one of them sets up a meeting with him. During dinner, he tells Lindy about it, and to impress her, he orders in Italian. He tells her he's sorry and tries to be nice to her to get her back. They start seeing each other again after getting back together. As time goes on and he gets more successful, he starts to feel like someone is following him. One night, while he and Lindy are in his apartment, he starts to feel strange. The next day, he and his boss meet Carl Van Loon for lunch. Eddie talks about how great he is at recognizing patterns and tries to impress the man. He gives him a ride home, and while they are driving, Van Loon gives him some papers and tells him to look them over. Eddie tells him what he thinks about what he's read when they get to his house. The man is impressed and plans to see him again. Eddie is too excited to go home, so he goes for a walk and thinks about his future. He even thinks he might be president someday. Suddenly, he starts to feel strange again, like time is moving in a totally different way. So he keeps walking until he gets to a bar and has no idea how he got there. Then he's at a party with one girl and in a hotel with another. He thinks someone is following him. Later, he starts a fight in the subway and realizes that he has learned how to fight just by watching kung fu movies and boxing on TV. He runs all over the city until he finds himself on top of a bridge and stops. He can't remember what happened in the last 18 hours. The next morning, Eddie feels terrible. He decides not to take another pill and tries to read the papers that Van Loon sent him, but they are hard to read. Eddie goes to the meeting drunk and without anything to do. Van Loon keeps asking him questions and expecting him to give high-level answers, but Eddie can only pay attention to the TV, where the news is telling him that the woman he was with in the hotel is dead. He quickly leaves the meeting. The phone rings when he gets home. It's Melissa. He wants to meet up with her later that day. Eddie remembers Vernon's black book and starts calling the people on the list. On the list, everyone is either dead or very sick. The last number he calls belongs to the man who followed him and is sitting on the same bench as him. Eddie sees the man and runs away while the man chases him. He finally gets rid of him by getting into a taxi. When he meets Melissa, she tells him that she, too, used the drug and was almost killed when she stopped. She finds out that he has also been taking it and tells him to stop taking it slowly or it could kill him. Eddie keeps getting worse every time he goes home, where the loan shark is waiting for him. The man takes and swallows his last pill. The man seems unaffected by the drug as Eddie goes to the bank to get the money he owes him. Eddie gives him his money, and he says he feels great, but his intelligence hasn't changed yet in a noticeable way. Eddie ends up in Lindy's office later. He tells her everything and asks her to get him the drugs he has hidden in her apartment. Lindy goes there and easily finds them. On her way back to the office, though, she calls Eddie and tells him that a man is following her. When her taxi gets stuck in traffic, the man walks up to her. Eddie tells her to run away, and the man follows her. Lindy gets lost and runs into a park, where she asks two guys for help. As she runs away again, the man walks up to them and stabs them both. Lindy goes into hiding and calls Eddie to say that she is stuck and scared. When he tells her to take one of the pills, she does. Lindy is also affected by the drug all of a sudden. She goes through the same thing Eddie did the first time he took it, and she knows right away what to do. She runs away. The man follows her everywhere she goes until she knocks him out and runs away. When Lindy finds Eddie, she gives him a pill. They both check into the same hotel. Eddie tries to convince Lindy that he'll get back on track the next morning as she gets ready to leave. But now that she has tried the drug for herself, she doesn't agree. He thinks the drug is good, but she is afraid of it. Eddie tells her that he will stop using drugs in the long run, but she still leaves. Eddie walks up to the loan shark who is waiting for him. He gives him a few drugs to hold him over until he can get more. Later, he hires two bodyguards who follow him everywhere, and he goes to see Van Loon. Eddie apologizes for missing the meeting and says he was sick. Since Eddie had already won over the man before, Van Loon still gives him the job. He helps Van Loon make the biggest merger in history, which puts him back on his feet. He doesn't wait until he runs out of the drug. Instead, he goes to a chemist and offers him $2 million if he can make it again in 6 months. One day, the detective comes to see Eddie while he's eating lunch. He tells him that he has been identified as the man who ran out of the hotel when the young woman was killed. Eddie hires the best lawyer to get him out of trouble. Later, when he is at a big meeting for the merger with Van Loon, he sees that one of the men on the other side, Atwood, is sick. They will meet again the next day to sign the contract. Eddie talks to Van Loon after the meeting. He warns Van Loon not to become his competition and says that whatever makes him so good at his job is a gift, not something he worked hard to get. When Eddie gets back to the hotel, his room is a mess. He buys the nice apartment we saw at the start of the movie. Later, he meets the loan shark again, but he's changed into a completely different person. He tells Eddie to bring him more pills or he will tell his boss about his trouble with the police. The next day, Eddie and Van Loon are waiting for Atwood to come in and sign the merger papers. When he doesn't show up, his wife comes to their offices to say that he's sick and will sign the contract as soon as he's better. The two of them walk her out, and as she gets into the car, Eddie sees the man who has been following him get in with her. Because of the drug, her husband got sick. Eddie goes to the police station to meet his lawyer and gets in line. He's lucky that nobody picks him out. He doesn't wait for the loan shark. Instead, he goes back to Van Loon's office, where they are watching the news. They are giving information about the merger. His new boss is mad about it, but tells him that Atwood is dying. The merger makes him nervous. Eddie realizes he needs to take another pill, so he goes outside to look for his stash, but he can't find it. When he returns to the office, a package is waiting for him. As Van Loon keeps pushing Eddie for information he thinks Eddie has, Eddie opens the package and finds the severed hands of his bodyguards inside. He gets up quickly and runs back to his apartment. There, he listens to the news and hears Atwood's wife talk about the merger in a way that isn't quite true. Her lawyer, who is also his lawyer, takes over the interview. The loan shark asks him to open the door when the doorbell rings. Eddie is then seen standing on his balcony's edge. He doesn't jump. He tries to remember where he might have put one more tablet and scrambles to find it. When he does, he drops it just as the loan shark walks into his apartment. His thugs grab Eddie and sit him down. He tells them that he takes the drug by mixing it with a liquid and injecting it into a vein. He gets high and orders his men to find Eddie's stash while he tortures Eddie to find out what he knows. The goons are trying to open his safe, so they don't hear when Eddie stabs their boss as he leans over. He kills him and drinks his blood to get his fix. He knows how to fight because it works. He first kills one and then the other. Atwood, on the other hand, dies at the hospital. Eddie goes there, and the man who followed him is seen sitting next to him. Later, the same man helps him find more drugs in the lawyer's apartment, where the lawyer has taken Atwood's stash. After a year, Eddie has published a book and is running for the Senate. Van Loan is in his office, waiting. They talk a little, but Van Loan tells him that he knows about the drug. He tells him that he shut down his lab that morning, but if he works for him, he can give him the drug in the future. They leave work together to get lunch, but Eddie won't get in the car or work with Van Loan. Eddie tells him that he learned how to change the drug and get off of it while keeping all of the good effects. He can see everything and is impossible to stop. Eddie says no to any chance of working with Van Loan and sends him away. He walks to a restaurant where he plans to meet Lindy. That was all from video. Thumbs up if you like this video, thumbs down if you don't. Do not forget to turn on your notifications to get more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and adios.